Ever since breakfast, when it occurred to me that Dad had been trying to bring Mum back from the dead, a horrible emotion had been trying to take hold of me, and it wasn't dread. Yes, the whole idea was creepy, much creepier than the shrine my grandparents kept in the hall cupboard to my dead mother. And yes, I told you I try not to live in the past, and nothing could change the fact that my mum was gone. But I'm a liar. The truth was, I'd had one dream ever since I was 6, to see my mum again. To actually get to know her, talk to her, go shopping, do anything. Just be with her once so I could have a better memory to hold on to. The feeling I was trying to shake was hope. I knew I was setting myself up for colossal hurt, but if it really were possible to bring her back, then I would have blown up any number of Rosetta Stones to make it happen. Let's keep looking, I said. After a few more minutes, I found a picture of some animal-headed gods, 5 in a row, with a starry woman figure arching over them protectively like an umbrella. Dad had released 5 gods. Carter, I called. What's this then? He came to have a look and his eyes lit up. That's it, he announced. These 5, and up here, their mother, Nut. I laughed. A goddess named Nut? Is her last name Case? Very funny, Carter said. She was the goddess of the sky. He pointed to the painted ceiling. The lady with the blue star-spangled skin. Same as in the scroll. So what about her, I asked. Carter knitted his eyebrows. Something about the demon days. It had to do with the birth of these 5 gods, but it's been a long time since Dad told me the story. This whole scroll is written in hieratic, I think. That's like hieroglyph cursive. Can you read it? I shook my head. Apparently my particular brand of insanity only applied to regular hieroglyphs. Wish I could find the story in English, Carter said. Just then, there was a cracking noise behind us. The empty-handed clay statue hopped off his pedestal and marched towards us. Carter and I scrambled to get out of his way, but he walked straight past us, grabbed a cylinder from its cubbyhole, and brought it to Carter. It's a retrieval shakti, I said. A clay librarian. Carter swallowed nervously and took the cylinder. Thanks. The statue marched back to his pedestal, jumped on, and hardened again into regular clay. I wonder. I faced the Shakti. Sandwich and crisps, please? Sadly, none of the statues jumped down to serve me. Perhaps food wasn't allowed in the library. Carter uncapped the cylinder and unrolled the papyrus. He sighed with relief. This version is in English. As he scanned the text, his frown got deeper. You don't look happy, I noticed, because I remember the story now. The 5 gods. If Dad really released them, it isn't good news. Hang on, I said. Start from the beginning. Carter took a shaky breath. Okay, so the sky goddess Nut was married to the earth god Geb. That would be this chap on the floor. I tapped my foot on the big green man with a river and hills and forests all over his body. Right, Carter said. Anyway, Geb and Nut wanted to have kids, but the king of the gods, Ra, he was the sun god, heard this bad prophecy that a child of Nut, I snickered. Go on. Sorry, go on. A child of Geb and Nut would one day replace Ra as king. So when Ra learned that Nut was pregnant, Ra freaked out. He forbade Nut to give birth to her children on any day or night of the year. I crossed my arms. So what? She had to stay pregnant forever? That's awfully mean. Carter shook his head. Nut figured out a way. She set up a game of dice with the moon god, Khunsu. Every time Khunsu lost, he had to give Nut some of his moonlight. He lost so many times, Nut won enough moonlight to create 5 new days and tag them on to the end of the year. Oh, please, I said. First, how can you gamble moonlight? And if you did, how could you make extra days out of it? It's a story, Carter protested. Anyway, the Egyptian calendar had 360 days in the year, just like the 360 degrees in a circle. Nut created 5 days and added them to the end of the year, days that were not part of the regular year. The demon days, I guess? So the myth explains why a year has 365 days, and I suppose she had her children during those 5 days, Carter agreed. 1 kid per day. Again, how do you have 5 children in a row, each on a different day? They're gods, Carter said. They can do stuff like that. Makes as much sense as the name Nut, but please go on. So when Ra found out, he was furious, but it was too late. The children were already born. Their names were Osiris, the one Dad was after, then Horus, Set, Isis, and Carter consulted his scroll. Nephthys? I always forget that one. And the ferryman in the museum said, "You have released all 5. Exactly. What if they were imprisoned together and Dad didn't realise it? They were born together, so maybe they had to be summoned back into the world together. The thing is, one of these guys, Set, was a really bad dude, like the villain of Egyptian mythology, the god of evil and chaos and desert storms." I shivered. Did he perhaps have something to do with fire? Carter pointed to one of the figures in the picture. The god had an animal head, but I couldn't quite make out which sort of animal. Dog, anteater, evil bunny, rabbit. Whichever it was, his hair and his clothes were bright red. The Red Lord, I said. Sadie, there's more, Carter said. Those 5 days, the demon days, were bad luck in ancient Egypt. You had to be careful, wear good luck charms, and not do anything important or dangerous on those days. And in the British Museum, Dad told Set, "They'll stop you before the demon days are over." Surely you don't think he meant us, I said. We're supposed to stop this Set character. Carter nodded. And if the last 5 days of our calendar year still count as the Egyptian demon days, they'd start on December the 27th, the day after tomorrow. The Shakti seemed to be staring at me expectantly, but I had not the slightest idea what to do. Demon days and evil bunny gods. If I heard one more impossible thing, my head would explode. And the worst of it, the little insistent voice in the back of my head saying, "It's not impossible. To save Dad, we must defeat Set." As if that had been on my to-do list for Christmas holes. See Dad, check. Develop strange powers, check. Defeat an evil god of chaos, check. The whole idea was mad. Suddenly there was a loud crash, as if something had broken in the great room. Khufu began barking an alarm. Carter and I locked eyes. Then we ran for the stairs. 8. Muffin plays with knives. Our baboon was going completely sky goddess, which is to say, nuts. He swung from column to column, bouncing along the balconies, overturning pots and statues. Then he ran back to the terrace windows, stared outside for a moment, and proceeded to go berserk again. Muffin was also at the window. She crouched on all fours with her tail twitching as if she were stalking a bird. "Perhaps it's just a passing flamingo," I suggested hopefully, but I'm not sure Carter could hear me over the screaming baboon. We ran to the glass doors. At first, I didn't see any problem. Then, water exploded from the pool and my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. 2 enormous creatures, most definitely not flamingos, were thrashing about with our crocodile, Philip of Macedonia. I couldn't make out what they were, only that they were fighting Philip 2 against 1. They disappeared under the boiling water and Khufu ran screaming through the great room again, bonking himself on the head with his empty Cheerios box, which I must say was not particularly helpful. "Longnecks," Carter said incredulously. "Sadie, did you see those things?" I couldn't find an answer. Then one of the creatures was thrown out of the pool. It slammed into the doors right in front of us, and I jumped back in alarm. On the other side of the glass was the most terrifying animal I'd ever seen. Its body was like a leopard's, lean and sinewy, with golden spotted fur, but its neck was completely wrong. It was green and scaly, and at least as long as the rest of its body. It had a cat's head, but no normal cat's. When it turned its glowing red eyes towards us, it howled, showing a forked tongue and fangs dripping with green venom. I realised my legs were shaking, and I was making a very undignified whimpering sound. The cat serpent jumped back into the pool to join its companion in beating up Philip, who spun and snapped, but seemed unable to hurt his attackers. "We have to help Philip," I cried. "He'll be killed." I reached for the door handle, but Muffin growled at me. Carter said, "Sadie, no. You heard Amos. We can't open the doors for any reason. The house is protected by magic. Philip will have to beat them on his own." "But what if he can't? Philip!" The old crocodile turned. For a second, his pink reptilian eye focused on me, as if he could sense my concern. Then the cat snakes bit at his underbelly, and Philip rose up so that only the tip of his tail still touched the water. His body began to glow. A low hum filled the air like an aeroplane engine starting up. When Philip came down, he slammed into the terrace with all his might. The entire house shook. Cracks appeared in the concrete terrace outside, and the swimming pool split right down the middle as the far end crumpled into empty space. "No!" I cried, but the edge of the terrace ripped free, plunging Philip and the monsters straight into the East River. My whole body began to tremble. He sacrificed himself. He killed the monsters. "Sadie," Carter's voice was faint. "What if he didn't? What if they come back?" "Don't say that." I recognize them, Sadie. Those creatures. Come on." "Where?" I demanded, but he ran straight back to the library. Carter marched up to the Shapti who'd helped us before. "Bring me the... what's it called?" "What?" I asked. "Something Dad showed me. It's a big stone plate or something. Had a picture of the first pharaoh, the guy who united Upper and Lower Egypt into one kingdom. His name..." His eyes lit up. "Nama! Bring me the Nama plate." Nothing happened. No, Carter decided, not a plate. It was one of those things that holds paint. A palette. "Bring me the Nama palette." The empty-handed Shapti didn't move, but across the room, the statue with the little hook came to life. He jumped off his pedestal and disappeared in a cloud of dust. A heartbeat later, he reappeared on the table. At his feet was a wedge of flat grey stone, shaped like a shield and about as long as my forearm. "No," Carter protested. "I meant a picture of it." "Oh, great. I think this is the real artifact. The Shapti must have stolen it from the Cairo Museum. We've got to return." "Hang on," I said. "We might as well have a look." The surface of the stone was carved with the picture of a man smashing another man in the face with what looked like a spoon. "That's Nama with a spoon," I guessed, angry because the other bloke stole his breakfast cereal. Carter shook his head. "He's conquering his enemies and uniting Egypt. See his hat? That's the crown of Lower Egypt, before the two countries united. The bit that looks like a bowling pin." "You're impossible," Carter grumbled. "He looks like Dad, doesn't he?" "Sadie, be serious." "I am serious. Look at his profile." Carter decided to ignore me. He examined the stone like he was afraid to touch it. "I need to see the back, but I don't want to turn it over. We might damage..." I grabbed the stone and flipped it over. "Sadie, you could have broken it." "That's what men's spells are for, yes?" We examined the back of the stone, and I had to admit I was impressed by Carter's memory. Two cat-snake monsters stood in the centre of the palette, their necks entwined. On either side, Egyptian men with ropes were trying to capture the creatures. "They're called serpopards," Carter said. "Serpent leopards." "Fascinating," I said. "But what are serpopards?" "No one knows exactly. Dad thought they were creatures of chaos, very bad news, and they've been around forever. This stone is one of the oldest artifacts from Egypt. Those pictures were carved 5,000 years ago. So why are 5,000-year-old monsters attacking our house?" "Last night in Phoenix, the fiery man ordered his servants to capture us. He said to send the longnecks first." I had a metallic taste in my mouth, and I wished I hadn't chewed my last piece of gum. "Well, good thing they're at the bottom of the East River."